All right. Good morning. This is August 10th, 2025, Fire Weather Briefing. I am Kelly from Spokane. We have Kayla from Seattle with us this morning. Just as a disclosure, this meeting is being recorded. By joining and participating in this session today, consent is being given to the recording. Please keep your cameras off per the NOAA Privacy Act statement. So currently we have upper ridging influencing the region right now. This ridge is expected to kind of shift west and flatten out over our area and allow some weak systems to move through as we start the work week. And this may turn into a slight troughing over the region as we head into midweek. I'll throw it over to Kayla first to discuss Western Washington.
Thanks, Kelly. So for today through Monday and Tuesday, we're going to see a hot and dry pattern kind of set up over the region. The only thing that really changed for us was Tuesday was supposed to be a little bit cooler, but now temperatures are trending a little bit hotter for that. So I did change that in the matrix. But yeah, we're going to see some relative humidities kind of drop down to some levels there. So elevated fire weather concerns, especially for our Cascade Mountain zones. And then, like you said earlier, for the troughing, we will have that troughing midweek. So you will see cooler temperatures starting Wednesday, and especially through later on in the week, we'll see some slight chance of showers as well. So again, these next 3 days are going to be the main time frame that we're pretty much concerned about for fire weather.
Thanks, Kayla. Similarly, over Eastern Washington, North Idaho, trending warmer and drier as we head into the work week here. Main concern tomorrow is going to be along the Okanagan Valley. We have our greatest chance of elevated fire conditions there. But the main concern is really going to be Wednesday. So that day you can see it's changed since yesterday. We have now marked it as critical fire conditions. And that's going to be mainly region-wide on Wednesday. Where Tuesday, we're mainly focused in the central Washington area for those elevated conditions. As we move into late Wednesday through Saturday, again, slightly cooler across the area with those chances of slight chances of showers, 10-15%, mainly along the Canadian border and the Cascade Crest. No meaningful precipitation is expected with that. So I just want to highlight again the problem of the week. We're really looking at Wednesday, and we're going to be looking at across the Columbia Basin, including the Spokane area and the Snake River Valley. Snake River Valley area, fire zone 709. That is the area of highest confidence with these critical conditions. Otherwise, across the area, our wind speeds will range from 15 to 25 miles an hour with gusts to 20 to 35 miles per hour, with the direction mainly having a westerly component to it. And the time frame of that will be about 2 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday. All right, we'll just take a look at hazards across the region here. We've got, I'll let Kayla talk about Western Washington here.
Yeah, so for most of our zones, we have a heat advisory out. For the only zones that we don't have the heat advisory out is for the coast, areas near the water, and like the higher top of the mountains. But our foothills and the Cascades, we're going to get pretty warm and dry there. So we have it pretty much throughout most of our interior, and that will be through Tuesday evening to account for those warmer conditions there, and then it'll drop off hopefully on Wednesday.
Thank you, Kayla. So yeah, for similarly or across our area, we also have some heat advisories out across central Washington and eastern Washington, including North Idaho. Those ones will start on Tuesday. And you'll also see that we've got extreme heat warning over in Pendleton's area for the lower Columbia Basin. Just for a little extra information there. All right, so we'll quickly go over for today, day one. So maximum temperatures across Washington, North Idaho. We've got the mid 80s into the low 90s across much of Western Washington and mid 90s to near 100 degrees across central eastern Washington, and including the upper 80s to low 90s across much of the North Idaho panhandle. RH wise across western Washington, looking at the 30 to 40 to 50% range, quite a range there across western Washington. Across eastern Washington, looking more in the mid 20s for RH, and as we get into far north Idaho, creeping up into the 30% range. And wind across the state, pretty uniform and light in the 5 to 10 mile per hour range. Your gusts later this afternoon, creeping into the 15 to just 10 to 15 range. Again, mainly with that northerly component across the northern half and kind of including more of a westerly component across southern Washington and Idaho. I will pass it to Kayla to talk about min RH for tomorrow.
Yeah, so you can see here, especially in our southern Cascades, Packwood's getting down to 25%. And, locally, it could even be lower there. So again, like I alluded to earlier, the Monday and Tuesday, min RHs will kind of look similarly like that and even be locally drier. So we're really going to, highlight that in our fire weather discussions, just for some elevated conditions, because they do get kind of dry. And yeah, thank you so much.
And here's your day 3.
Yeah, pretty much the same here, especially in the interior. You can see lower RHs there. So again, similar story for that, especially with Tuesday being warmer than expected. So that will be kind of an uncertain day and see how hot the temperatures get and how dry we get there.
Great. Thanks, Kayla. All right. So for day 4, Wednesday, that was going to be our most critical day across central Washington, eastern Washington, portions of North Idaho for elevated concerns. So here we go with the wind. Your sustained speeds in that 15 to 20 mile per hour range for much of the area, including the gusts here on the right hand side. So you can see we've got gusts ranging from 15 to 25, possibly up into the 30 mile an hour range is what we've got forecast right now. And it's a possibility that a couple of those wind gusts, reach into the 35 mile per hour range. When we combine that with the RH that we have, we're looking in the teens for a lot of the area, and this may potentially trend down in coming forecasts. So this again is the most concerning area, and that Snake River Valley area has the highest probability of this combination in critical fire conditions. All right, here's a quick look at the day 1 through 7 across eastern Washington, North Idaho. Again, just looking at the across the Cascades and along the Canadian border. Really light showers, nothing too impactful there. And I'll let Kayla discuss western Washington.
Yeah, so for here, we can definitely see, for the next 7 days, we'll have those slight chance of showers. Like I mentioned, we could see some, nice rain from that. So that's a welcome sight for sure. And it'll definitely help out, with these hot and dry conditions trending into that cooler and showery pattern. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
And I will also pass it to Kayla to start talking about our trends.
Thanks, Kelly. So for Hanapakash here, especially earlier when I talked about the Southern Cascades kind of Packwood getting down low, you can see, Monday and Tuesday, the relative humidities get kind of low there, hovering around that 20% mark, and the high temperatures, in the lower 90s there. So again, that's going to be the area to concern for the next couple of days. And then their pattern or later on the week, we will have better relative humidity recoveries and cooler temperatures across the region. So that will be guaranteed. But again, the next 2 days will be just an elevated concern for us.
All right, thank you. All right, over eastern Washington, we're going to take a look at Douglas. So similarly, we've got our hot and dry conditions. We've got temperatures again in the 90s, and you can see our RH recoveries are pretty poor, not really getting close to 50 or even 40% there Tuesday. So we're looking pretty dry again in the teens to 20% range during the afternoon hours. And then our cooling trend for the remainder of the week, and also a little bit improvement in our RH recoveries as we head into the late week. For the wind, you can pretty clearly see we've got a nice jump here coming Tuesday to Wednesday, where some of our peak wind speeds here, 20 miles an hour. Again, mainly having a westerly component to that wind as well. Moving over to Maggie Peak, our elevation at 3,600 feet. Similar story here. We have our warming trend coming up here and our cooling for the late week. And our RH recoveries continue to be rather poor across the area with low 20s to mid 20s, I guess, for our afternoon relative humidities in that area. And again, you see our increase in wind speed late Tuesday through Wednesday, even parts of Thursday kind of staying elevated in that 12 to 15 mile per hour range. And by then changing through westerly to a southwesterly type wind. Here's our quick glance at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. So much of the area near normal to slightly below normal across northwest Washington. And then 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook, near normal across much of the region, except you can see along the Canadian border here for Washington and North Idaho, a little bit slightly increased there. All right, so for any additional info, you're welcome to check out the OTX fire weather dashboard. And in a moment, I will stop the recording and we'll be able to ask some questions.